Please remain standing for the invocation. I'd like to have my uncle and superintendent of the cemetery come forward for the invocation.
Please bow your heads. God, Father, Creator of us all, as we gather here today in dedicating this monument, we ask your blessing on this occasion and on the members of the extended Van Patten family and on the local community.
Hopefully I won't, my speech won't blow away here. So. I want to welcome everybody to the 2010 dedication of the Van Patten Monument. Unbelievable day. Dana would have had a hard time if we had to put a big tent up for all of this. So I don't think there's a tent big enough for all of this.
The members of the 2nd Albany are very pleased and honored to be asked to participate in this program, which in part honors the memory of some of those who actually served 235 years ago in the regiment that we recreate. It's their dedication, their sacrifices that have helped build this country that we, love today. Albany County at the time of the Revolution was a very different place than it is today. It included Albany, Washington, Rensselaer, Columbia, Saratoga, Schoharie, and Schenectady counties. There were 17 militia districts in the county, and the largest of those was Colonel Abraham Wemple's regiment, which is now known as the 2nd Albany. The town of Schenectady in Albany County on the shores of the Mohawk River is a very strategic location, and its borders were prime targets for those that were remaining loyal to the crown. Militia service was long mandated by the British colonial law and generally required all males between 16 and 60 to serve. With the advent of open hostilities in the Bay Colony, those militias started to reorganize under New York State provincial law. Local governmental powers at the time were vested in committees of safety. In May of 1775, the Schenectady Committee voted to purchase 338 pounds of gunpowder and posted advertisements throughout the community for calling for a meeting of the inhabitants on May 27th to determine how the district was supplied with arms and ammunition. On May 27th, the committee passed a resolution which called for the raising of 3 companies of Minutemen, 2 in the town of Schenectady and 1 in Westina. Each company was to consist of a captain, 2 lieutenants, 4 sergeants, 3 corporals, a drum, and 50 privates. The 3rd company was commanded by John Van Patten. Andrew Van Patten was appointed a lieutenant in Captain Jellis Fonda's company. Later that year in September, the 3 companies were reorganized and 2 additional companies were raised, this time including Captains Abraham Wemple and Thomas Wasson. And in October, the Provincial Congress appointed field officers for the regiment, with Abraham Wemple becoming colonel and Aaron Van Patten the adjutant. The 2 companies under Majors Fonda and Minders remained minute companies until the spring of 1775, when they were incorporated into the regular militia. The motto of those companies were, and it was noted on their flags, liberty or death. And because of the color of the uniforms they wore, they were called the greens and the blues. This blue Liberty flag that's flying behind me is a copy, and I say an exact copy, of the Liberty flag from the regiment that now hangs in the Schenectady County Historical Society Museum. Initially, the 2nd Albany's service was pretty much routine. They mounted patrols throughout the area and were tasked with moving and the protection of supplies and provisions to various outposts to the north and Fort Schuyler, which was what Stanwix was renamed after it was reconstructed. They spent time garrisoning Fort Edward, Fort Paris, Fort Plank, the latter 2 out in the Mohawk Valley, and the Schoharie Valley forts. In August of 1877, however, actual warfare came to the area, and the 2nd Albany's role changed. They would find themselves engaged in most of the more important actions to occur in upstate New York during the course of the Revolution. In early August 1777, the 2nd Albany was involved in a skirmish with Tories in what's locally known as the Battle of the Normanskill. That skirmish occurred when a detail of militia and Continental troops found 16 loyalists under arms at the home of Nicholas Van Patten. Now, just so you understand, there are numerous instances of families being divided and some serving the other cause. This was a civil war in this area. You know, it wasn't British, it wasn't so much British versus American troops. Many times it was brother versus brother. Some of these prominent families that had folks serving on both sides: General Abraham Tenbrook, who is the overall commander of the Albany Brigade of Militia; Tryon County General Nicholas Herkimer; and a little bit over in the valley, Johannes Ball, who was the chairman of the Schoharie Committee of Safety. His brother was a loyalist. David talked about the battles of Saratoga. The regiment served in both the Battle of Freeman's Farm and Bemis Heights. It's called a turning point of the Revolution because as a result of that victory, the French crown was prodded to deciding it was time to get involved. And that assistance was later to help sway the outcome of the war. In 1778, much of the regiment was assigned to garrisoning the Schoharie Valley forts. 2nd Albany under Wemple was the first to respond to the aftermath of the Cobleskill Massacre, which occurred on May 31st of that year. In 1779, some of the 2nd Albany were finding themselves drafted into Continental service, serving at Fort Paris, out in the Mohawk Valley to the west of here. In July 1780, Colonel Wemple and Major Fonda of the regiment were in command at Fort Plain. Fall of 1780 was to see 2 raids target the Albany area. The first in October saw 200 members of the regiment turn out to the defense of Boston to the north. Then on October 17th, a large force under Sir John Johnson began the largest loyalist raid of the war, eventually destroying most of the settlements in the Schoharie and Mohawk valleys that were located in the path. On October 19th, the regiment participated in the Battle of Clark's Field, with Colonel Wemple commanding and the division under the overall command of General Van Rensselaer. August 1881, General Philip Schuyler called out the 2nd Albany to try and apprehend the loyalist raiding party that unsuccessfully attempted his kidnapping, and which made off with hostages abducted from his household. The Northern War did not end with Cornwallis's surrender in Yorktown in early October 1781. In late October, the regiment responded to a raid under the command of Major Ross of the King's Royal Regiment of New York on Johnstown. On October 30th, the regiment was represented at the Battle of West Canada Creek and the death of Walter Butler, who is remembered in infamy for his role in the Cherry Valley Massacre in 1778. All in all, the 2nd Albany acquitted itself very well during the Revolution. And during the course of the war, as David said, 18 Van Pattens show up on the rolls of the regiment.